I agree with what you're saying. I agree with what you're saying. Stop agreeing with yourself. Stop agreeing with yourself.
Hello and welcome to Glass Half Full Reviews, the only optimistic review show on the internet if you discount every other one. Today I'm going to be reviewing Boyhood. So Boyhood is the latest film from director Richard Linklater, who has done a couple movies over the years, and one of my favorites of his I think is probably School of Rock, which may not be as well known for a lot of other people, but for me I really did like it. So what's the deal with Boyhood? Boyhood is a really interesting movie. It's sort of like an experiment, because it started filming in about 2003, and they hired some kid actors and basically kept filming them in little bits and pieces for the next 12 years. So when they started wrapping up filming last year, basically you'd start from the point where you're filming kids who were like 6 and 7, who are now 18 and 19. Plus all the adult actors have also aged. So what is this movie about? Well, so the movie stars L.R. Coltrane as Mason. And basically it just shows the story of his life growing up from a little kid up to starting college. And I know that doesn't sound necessarily interesting, but what's fascinating about this movie is to watch that growth. It's like you're watching somebody grow up on screen. You know, and usually when we see this kind of thing in movies, we see, okay, well, here's one actor playing the kid, another actor playing the teenager, maybe another one playing the adult, or maybe they'll do the actor as a teenager with like makeup over weird hairstyles or something like that. And here, it was actually the people growing up as the movie was continuing. And it's like a trick on your senses, because you just don't expect it, but you're sort of like, oh, wait a minute, like 40 minutes ago was 10 years earlier. And you just don't realize it because you're sort of catching up. Just like in real life, we don't realize that the people we know are growing older because we're used to seeing them so frequently. It's like, oh, okay, now you're a little bit older, now you're a little bit older. I mean, when you haven't seen someone for 5 years, they'll look very different. But if you keep seeing them every few weeks, or even every day, it just goes up very slowly. You know, you look back at old pictures of yourself, you're like, what's that person? They just look so different. I mean, I know for sure, I was just looking at my high school yearbook, and it's like, oh, look at all these kids, they're babies. And they were babies, and man, I may have been a handsome baby when I was a little kid. So it's really interesting. So this movie stars Mason. Basically, we start out seeing him basically leaving off with his mom, played by Patricia Arquette, and his sister, who's played by Lorelai Linklater, who is the director's daughter. Nepotism. Although she's actually quite good in this movie. So I guess this time nepotism worked out, unlike, I guess, The Godfather Part 3, which I've never seen, but I hear Sofia Coppola was supposed to be kind of bad. Not really my best time of admitting no knowledge of some movie. All right, so moving on. It sort of goes through different points in his life, and we see that Mason's father, his biological father, played by Ethan Hawke, he'd gone off to Alaska for a couple of years, and now he's finally back to Texas to maybe hang out sporadically with the kids. He doesn't show up that often, but he shows up a little bit, and we sort of see going through, and maybe, you know, the mother gets married again or remarried again, and you see bits and pieces. You see very important pieces of his life, like, this event is critical, it's huge. Then you see another one that's like, oh, he's just hanging around friends. We don't see his first kiss, but we see some of his later ones. You know, we see things about his life that tell us about himself and what is important to him. We see the artistic ideas that he comes up with and the way he tries to talk, you know, to sound smart and wise, and, you know, sort of acknowledge that maybe he isn't as smart and wise as he thinks he is. To me, this movie is just raw, it's honest, it moves at such a pace that, yes, it's 2 hours and 46 minutes long, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like you're really living through something, and I just was blown away by this movie. It was amazing. I know this movie's not going to be for everyone. I mean, it's over 2 hours long, so it's going to be hard, and it doesn't have like the, New York's in danger, we have to stop it from the aliens, or Texas is in danger, as the case may be, but to me, this really worked. All right, let's get into my 5-point breakdown.
5-point breakdown.
All right, so what about the acting? A+. Everyone was great. And the kids were... I was amazed by how good this kid, Alec Coltrane, was when he was a little kid, 6, 7, 8, 10. Some of the scenes that he did, there was one scene where he had this look on his face filled with like hatred, pain. It was like, I don't know what they did, but he did a really great job. And, sure, he stayed a pretty good actor, so it works for me. And, the adults are all really good. Patricia Arquette, on the periphery, because it's really sort of the story about the kids, but, oh man, some of the pain and depth that she shows, I think, was just very impressive. Everyone was great here. The acting, top-notch. Let's move on to number 2, story. So the funny thing is that the story was kind of developed as it went, because the director, he didn't come up with everything at once, because how could you, considering you're filming over 12 years? So it sort of built as it went, but it built on itself. I think the story really worked, for me anyway. I think showing these little bits and pieces as we go, it made sense, the ones that he chose to show, and how it showed us about these characters and their lives, and just sort of looking into people, and not necessarily exceptional people, but not necessarily unexceptional people either, and I really like that. Number 3. So, this movie is very interesting. It has a very beautiful look to it at times. Sometimes it can be very subdued. It's supposed to be very naturalistic. So, I think it worked for that. I really did like the way this movie looked. It wasn't in your face, but it wasn't too much either. Sometimes you had some sort of like aching bits, and other times, it felt claustrophobic. It worked exactly as it needed to. Let's move on to number 4. So, I mean, this movie, it kind of has a very uplifting feel in a lot of ways. You leave and you're like, wow, that's life for you. Man, I just was so blown away by everything in this movie. It was just really meaningful to me. So, I have to say, I loved the way this movie feels. How about number 5? Wow, what a tough question. I don't know what's going to happen with this movie, because it's such a crazy experiment to film over this long period of time. I mean, will anyone ever try it again? I don't know. Who can say? I know he was filming other movies as he was doing this. Like sometimes he would take a break. Okay, I just finished wrapping a movie. Let me go back, film some more scenes from this movie I'm doing. Oh my god, the fact that they stayed with it this long. I mean, I don't know if there's other aborted experiments like this that other filmmakers have tried, but this is just amazing to me. And maybe other filmmakers will try to be this experimental in the future. I would assume there will be something, but who knows? I just think this was a success. So, do I recommend this movie? Well, if you could take this kind of thing, which is a little bit indie in a lot of ways, but you're willing to try, then I would say this movie is amazing. And that's what I think. Thanks for stopping by.